Hi guys, welcome to my channel Lush Gardener. I hope you guys are fine and are safe. So in today's video we will be talking about why are my succulent cuttings dying. Now guys, we all need to understand when you do a cutting of any particular succulent, when you cut it off, like when you tend to do a beheading, like I have done a beheading for this guy. Now when I tend to do a beheading for this guy, you can see there are no roots at all. So this is a basically completely new baby. It's a new succulent which does not have roots. So you need to treat it like a new succulent. Now until the roots don't appear, you have to keep it in indirect but bright light. Now another important thing, the moment the roots appear, put it into the soil, and once you are done, then slowly after 4 or 5 days you can start watering it depending upon how dehydrated or how hydrated the succulent is. If the succulent is extremely dehydrated, you can water after 2 or 3 days once the roots are present. Or if the succulent, like in this case the succulent looks very hydrated, if your succulent tends to look like this, you can water after 4 or 5 days or even a week. Now guys, after the roots have been developed, it is a completely new succulent. Now you have to remember, a lot of times people tend to get very scared of watering. Now again guys, nothing to be worried. A lot of times we tend to kill our succulents because we are panicked. So never ever keep your cuttings excessively underwatered. If you're going to keep it underwatered excessively, then definitely the cutting will not survive. Because remember, the succulent has extra work over here. One is it has to provide water for itself from the leaves. Apart from that, it also has to concentrate in putting out new roots. So you have to ensure that you have a balanced watering for your cuttings once the roots appear. So do not keep them underwatered for a very long time. Whenever you see that the lower leaves have started to wrinkle, water them, or when the soil is completely bone dry. Now for example, if we have our established succulents, they already have roots. They do not need to focus much on putting out the roots. At the same time, they do not need to consume a lot of water from the leaves because they have established roots. They have enough water in their leaves. So at times what happens is when we tend to water our succulents, let's say that if the soil tends to dry after 4 days, I can even give another 2 or 3 days. I can wait, or I can even wait for a week as well, because the succulent is not going to die because it has established roots. It also has enough water in the leaves. So even after the soil is dried, let's say after 4 days or 3 days the soil is completely bone dry, I can still wait for another 4 or 5 days or even a week. That is absolutely fine. But when it comes to your cuttings, you have to ensure that you do not keep them excessively underwatered. Let's say on the 4th day your soil is completely bone dry. So on the 5th day, go ahead and do a complete watering until the water starts passing through the drain hole. And then the same thing again, wait for the soil to be completely bone dry and then go ahead and water. So this was being said about underwatering. Do not excessively underwater your stem cuttings or your propagation. After this, the next important thing is the sunlight. Now, a lot of times people are from a very different environment. Some people have a really hot environment wherein their summers are above 40 degrees Celsius. So in this case, I would say, first of all, avoid doing any stem cutting when the temperatures are very high. Because over here, once you do the stem cutting, the succulent is all by itself. It has to depend on the water that is present in the leaves. So that brings us to another important point. Whenever you are doing a stem cutting, ensure that your succulent is completely plump, all the leaves are filled with water, and then do a stem cutting. After which, if you are in a place wherein the sun is really intense, do not keep your succulents out in direct sunlight. The cuttings, do not keep the cuttings in direct sunlight. That will harm your stem cuttings, especially when they do not have roots. Even once they have developed roots, do not expose them right away in morning direct sunlight. Wait for some more time. Let the succulent completely anchor its roots into the soil. Let all the leaves again look fresh. Once that happens, then you can slowly and gradually introduce it to morning direct sunlight for 5 to 6 hours. But a slow and gradual introduction. Because what is going to happen is, if you're going to put a cutting out in direct sunlight, the soil is going to dry rapidly. Over here, the succulent is focusing on absorbing the water from the leaves. Also, it's trying to focus on putting out new roots. The new roots are not very well developed. They do not have that capacity to absorb water quickly. So that's why the succulent tends to get dehydrated at a much faster rate, the stem cuttings. So ensure that you do not put them out in direct sunlight. Let the succulent completely get established. Let the roots anchor very well into the soil. Let all the leaves get plump, and then do a slow introduction. Because if you're going to keep your soil out in direct sunlight, the soil will dry out rapidly. So this is all about the stem cuttings. If you're going to follow this process, I'm sure your stem cuttings will not have any issues. So guys, I hope that this video was helpful to you. If it was, please hit the like button. If you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing to it. Until then, take care, stay safe and keep planting.